There was once a traveler who walked through a vast marketplace from dawn until dusk, searching for gold. He ran from stall to stall, bargaining, pleading, chasing every shimmer he thought might turn into wealth. Yet, as the sun set, his hands were empty and his heart heavier than when he began. An old observer sat quietly nearby and said to him, "You have spent the whole day chasing what does not run, and in your chasing you have failed to notice what quietly follows the one who walks with awareness." The traveler did not understand, so the observer continued, "Prosperity is not a bird that flees from you. It is a shadow that follows the posture of your mind. When the mind is restless, grasping and anxious, wealth appears distant no matter how close it stands. But when the mind is steady, aware, and rooted in clarity, even opportunity begins to recognize your presence. The secret is not pursuit, it is alignment. There is a law unseen by those who chase. What you cling to escapes, what you release returns in form you did not expect. The hand that is always closed cannot receive, and the eyes that are always searching cannot see what is already present. Many believe money is the source of peace. Yet it is often the opposite. Peace is the source that allows money to stay. When a person is driven by fear of lack, every action becomes desperate. Decisions are rushed. Choices are clouded. Even when gain arrives, it slips away because it was never anchored in calm awareness. But when a person walks with patience, discipline, and inner stillness, something shifts. Effort becomes clear instead of forced. Work becomes meaningful instead of anxious. And strangely, opportunities begin to appear without struggle. It is not magic. It is the natural response of life to clarity. Consider a river. It does not chase the ocean. It flows with consistency, guided by gravity and path, and in time it reaches its destination without struggle. But if the river tried to rush or force itself beyond its course, it would scatter, lose direction, and dry before reaching its end. So it is with prosperity. Chasing money creates inner noise, and in that noise you miss the subtle openings life places before you. But when the mind becomes quiet, even ordinary work becomes fertile ground for growth. The secret is simple, though not always easy to practice. Stop making money the center of your pursuit and make your inner state the center instead. Cultivate discipline in your actions. Bring honesty into your work. Let patience guide your timing. Do not act from panic, but from awareness. Do not measure your worth by what you lack, but by the steadiness you maintain while building. Prosperity is attracted to those who are not consumed by it. There is a paradox here. The less you obsess over wealth, the more space you create for it to grow. The more you chase it with tension, the more it slips through hidden cracks in your attention. This does not mean abandoning effort. It means refining intention. Work fully but without desperation. Earn with integrity but without attachment. Plan wisely but without fear of tomorrow. In this balance, action becomes powerful rather than chaotic, and over time something subtle happens. You no longer feel that you are chasing life. Life begins to meet you halfway. Doors open not because you forced them, but because you were ready when they appeared. People trust you not because you asked for trust, but because your presence reflects stability. Wealth flows not because you hunted it endlessly, but because your path became aligned with conditions that naturally attract it. The seeker eventually understands. Prosperity was never outside. It was responding to the quality of the inner world all along. So stop running after what does not need to be chased. Walk instead with awareness. Build instead with patience. And let what is meant for you recognize the calm space you have created within your life. In that stillness, even what once felt distant begins to arrive, not as a reward for struggle, but as a response to clarity. Prosperity follows inner state, not desperation. Wealth is not attracted through anxiety or constant chasing, but through a calm, clear, and stable mind that creates better decisions and opportunities. Prosperity does not arrive in the life of a person merely because they desire it intensely. Desire alone, when mixed with fear and urgency, often becomes a disturbance rather than a strength. When the mind is constantly thinking about what it lacks, when a person is no longer chasing money with desperation, they begin to relate to life differently. Work is no longer just a means of survival, but a space for expression and development. Effort becomes lighter, not because it is reduced, but because it is no longer burdened by fear. In this state, prosperity does not feel like something being hunted. It feels like something that gradually aligns itself with a person who has created the right conditions within. The mind becomes less like a seeker running after shadows, and more like a stable ground where growth can take root naturally. Stillness improves judgment and success. This driven by panic or greed. When a person lives with the belief that prosperity must be captured through constant struggle, their life becomes narrowed into a single focus, pursuit. Every thought begins to circle around earning, acquiring, and securing. In this state, the mind rarely experiences stillness. Even in moments of rest, there is an undercurrent of worry about what has not yet been achieved. This continuous mental pressure does not create abundance. Instead, it creates exhaustion that slowly weakens clarity and judgment. True growth does not arise from inner pressure, but from inner alignment. When the mind is scattered, energy is wasted in many directions at once. A person may work hard, but without direction, hard work becomes like pouring water into sand. It disappears quickly without building anything lasting. However, when the mind becomes centered, even small efforts begin to carry weight. Every action becomes purposeful rather than reactive. There is a subtle difference between effort driven by fear and effort guided by awareness. Fear-driven effort is fast, restless, and often inconsistent. It is motivated by the need to escape lack. Awareness-guided effort is steady, patient, and precise. It is motivated by understanding and long-term vision. Both may appear similar on the surface, but their results over time are very different. One burns out quickly, while the other builds gradually and remains stable. Prosperity tends to respond more strongly to consistency than to intensity. A person who works with calm discipline, even if slowly, often achieves more lasting results than someone who works in bursts of urgency followed by collapse. This is because stability allows systems, habits, and opportunities to develop naturally over time. Wealth, in this sense, is not an isolated event but the outcome of sustained clarity and balanced action. When a person is not controlled by constant fear of not having enough, their decisions become more thoughtful. They are less likely to accept harmful shortcuts or unstable paths. They begin to recognize that not every opportunity is valuable, and not every delay is a loss. This understanding protects them from many unnecessary mistakes that come from impatience. There is also a deeper transformation that occurs when chasing slows down. The mind begins to notice things that were always present but previously ignored. Small opportunities, simple improvements, and gradual progress start to become visible. Life is not suddenly different, perception becomes different. And when perception changes, reality feels transformed. In this quiet shift, work itself begins to change. It is no longer just a burden carried for survival. It becomes a space where skill, discipline, and creativity can grow. Even routine tasks gain meaning because they are no longer performed under pressure, but with awareness. This reduces inner resistance and increases effectiveness. Over time, something remarkable happens. The urgency to chase begins to fade, not because goals disappear, but because trust in the process increases. A person starts to understand that stability builds faster than panic, and clarity produces stronger results than confusion. In this way, prosperity is no longer seen as something distant that must be caught through struggle. It becomes something that gradually unfolds in the life of one who has learned to replace urgency with understanding and chasing with steady presence. Consistent, Patient effort is more powerful than restless pursuit, like a river reaching the ocean. Steady and disciplined action leads to prosperity without forcing or rushing outcomes. When a mind is constantly occupied with the pursuit of wealth, it often forgets to observe the state from which that pursuit arises. Many believe that abundance is a direct result of stability. Does not mean resistance to change. It means maintaining clarity within change. When the mind is steady, even difficult situations become manageable because they are seen clearly rather than through the lens of fear. Another important aspect is the way perception changes when chasing decreases. When the mind is constantly focused on lack, it filters reality through scarcity. But when that focus relaxes, the same environment begins to reveal possibilities that were always present but previously unnoticed. Opportunities often do not appear suddenly. They become visible when attention is no longer narrowed by anxiety. Over time, consistent and aware action begins to produce results that feel more stable. This is not because effort has increased in intensity, but because effort has gained direction. Direction is more powerful than speed. A person moving steadily toward a clear understanding will eventually surpass someone moving quickly without orientation. In this way, prosperity becomes less about pursuit and more about preparation. It is shaped by the quality of attention, the steadiness of action, and the absence of unnecessary mental pressure. When chasing is replaced by clarity, life begins to unfold with greater coherence. Wealth, rather than being something chased, becomes something that naturally aligns with a mind that has learned to remain balanced, attentive, and grounded in its approach to living. Prosperity is attracted to balanced living when work is done with integrity, patience, and awareness, not fear or attachment. Wealth begins to align naturally with a person's life path.